I've been making videos since 2014. I have well over 200 videos in my library. It's taken me that long to figure out what I'm doing with this crazy YouTube thing. But now I know, and today I'm going to share it with you guys. If you are looking for a custom-built Squarebody Suburban, hit me up. Let me know. Send me an email, james@merricksgarage.com. I'm serious. I'm going to be building 2 more of these when I'm done. Going to be pretty much identical. So if you like what you see behind me, and if you've enjoyed this build series, you can purchase one of these guys. I already have the trucks lined up. I know what parts I'm going to be using, and as soon as this one's done, I'll pull another one in and start doing the same thing. So today I want to give you a tour of where we stand with my build. It's been progressing really well. I hope to have the engine, transmission, and everything in here in the next week or 2, and potentially be driving this thing by maybe middle of July, end of July. I know it's ambitious, but it's going together faster than I had hoped, with less and less major gotchas along the way. James@merricksgarage.com is my email. Send me an email. Let's talk. If you saw my video last week, you will have seen that I was able to finally get the front axle all buttoned up and back together. And it is underneath the truck. The leaf springs are on. I've still got to bolt everything in place, but I am stoked because this is a milestone. I'm going to be able to put the tires and wheels on here shortly and get this thing back on its own feet. My next objective is going to be rolling the frame and chassis out from underneath so I can start spraying the underneath of the truck. But the Danish 60 is in, it is built, it is burly, and it's looking good. It took a lot of elbow grease to get this thing looking good again, but it was definitely worth the time. One of the most surprising things when I started dismantling the truck in the beginning was how everything was loose. And I mean everything. Every bolt that I touched had at least half a turn, if not more, to get it fully tight. That was really surprising to me. I mean, it's not that unusual considering the truck is 30 years old and doesn't look like some of these bolts had ever had a wrench put on them since the factory. But it did lend to the fact that things come loose over time. And as a result, the alignment was off, the steering was vague, the ride was unpredictable. And unfortunately, it's because everything was loose. There was a lot of things worn out that I'm sure was accelerated by the fact that everything was loose. But being able to quickly identify that your hardware is tight, that you know it's not come loose, that you know it hasn't moved, makes maintenance in the future a lot easier. So to that end, I add a little bit of torque stripe to every bolt that I touch. During final assembly, when it gets torqued, it's going to get new hardware, so I'm always using new hardware whenever I put things back together. It gets Loctite, it gets torqued, and then it gets hit with that torque stripe or torque seal or cross check. That way, I know it's good, I don't need to touch it again, and a year down the road, I can glance at it and see that it's still tight. This week I have spent a lot of time reassembling the entire front end. Everything was in, but there was a lot of bolts missing. It wasn't torqued, it wasn't tight, and it wasn't ready to go. So I have removed all the test hardware that I had in, purchased new hardware, dropped it all in. It's all bolted and torqued, and I'm ready to drop the Cummins back in. I still need to get the transmission mounted up to the back. I've been waiting for the throw-out bearing, but that's here now. So I can mate the transmission to the Cummins, drop them both in, see if everything fits well, and continue to work my way forward. My power steering stuff has showed up. I've got my rear springs showing up here probably tomorrow or early next week. Soon enough, we're gonna have this thing fired up and running. Undoubtedly, if you are in the middle of a build, much like me, you have had your project put on hold because of the COVID pandemic. I'm still waiting on a bunch of stuff to show up, but things are starting to trickle in, and so I got a bunch of things this week that I'm going to go through, show you what they are, talk about why I chose them and where they're going to go on the truck. So let's jump into steering. Steering on the original Squarebodies, the factory steering is terrible. it just doesn't work. As soon as you lift it, you're introducing all kinds of wacky angles. They're gonna fight with the little dog leg pitman arm, and it's just not worth the hassle of trying to make it work. PSC makes a fantastic system that comes with a entirely new box, new pump, reservoir, and a ram cylinder. I have this on the Squarebody Blazer just because having hydraulic assist on your steering when you're pushing big tires is really, really nice. Even more so when you have a 1,200-pound engine on top of that steering. The challenge with running PSC or hydraulic assist or any kind of steering with a Cummins or a diesel engine is going to be the fact that the diesel engine does not produce, it doesn't run in the high RPMs like an LS engine does. And so the pump has to work harder to create the same amount of pressure. One of the ways to combat that is getting a dedicated diesel pump and also going to a smaller diameter cylinder. That way, less fluid, more movement, less work on the pump. You still get the same results. So thank you to Off-Road Design for helping spec out this steering kit. I'm looking forward to putting it on and getting it all plumbed in and dialed. I also picked up a starter for the Cummins that I need to throw on. I've got the alternator. I still need to sort out air conditioning. I'm not sure what I'm going to do for an AC compressor, but I'm hoping to use the factory condenser evaporator. I've also picked up some airbags. I chose to go with airbags because I knew I was going to be doing quite a bit of towing and loading heavy junk into the back of the into the back of the burb. And so I went with a set of Airlift air springs, 5,000. These are going to give me some additional support when I load the back up and I want to bring the level back up. So I am stoked to be throwing the airbags on. I got a lot of work to do. The rear spring is going to be here, like I mentioned. The front needs to start getting assembled with all these parts. I'm ready to drop the Cummins in, and boom, we're going to be doing tractor pulls before we know it. I used the PSC system on my Blazer build, and it has been fantastic. So that is what I've gone with for the K30 Burb. The PSC is nice in the fact that it's an entirely enclosed system, or it's a one manufacturer system. So I get the box, I get the pump, I get the reservoir, I get the lines, and I get the ram, all from PSC. PSC provides this box. It's a brand new box with new internals, and it has these two ports for the ram, one for supply, one for return. Same thing up here, one for supply, one for return up to my steering pump. But in addition to having just the pitman arm and the sector shaft driving the tie rod, I've also, or drag link, I've got the ram working on the tie rod. It's a great setup. I'm stoked to have it on the burb. One final quick note here on the steering boxes and the frame location for square bodies. This is a notorious area of concern for the factory frame. This is the Off-Road Designs plate. These are the Dueling Designs frame plates. But what this does is it stiffens up this part of the box. This is your sector shaft right here that is going to be turning to spin your pitman arm to drive your drag link. The challenge is this is exerting a lot of stress on this frame junction. It is trying to shear this box from the frame, and I've seen it be successful. It's happened to me, it's happened to a friend of mine on the trail, and so it's highly important that you not only strengthen this, but you mount it securely. Get it really snug and tight, throw some Loctite on there, and keep your eye on it. When I pulled the box off the frame when it was in its original form, one of the bolts was missing. It was so loose that it was dangerous. So make sure you're checking your junk. Here we have the ram for the hydraulic assist, and it's exactly what it sounds like. This is a hydraulic ram with two ports corresponding to the two ports up on the box. This ram will extend or retract based on steering input. You just got to make sure that you connect your lines correctly. And what this does is it provides force from the axle to the tie rod to drive it either driver side or passenger side, depending on how you're steering. They're really, really helpful. If you're trying to move big tires with a big heavy engine and big axles, you're putting a lot of stress and strain on not only the box, but the frame also. And adding hydraulic assist into the system relocates some of the stress and leverage and maximizes the hydraulic system that you have running in your steering system already. This works in conjunction with the reservoir. So this is an external reservoir. It enables you to have a really small, compact pump. Most of the steering pumps that you see on the market are going to have that reservoir built in. This is an external reservoir, allowing you to mount it remotely so you don't have any packaging concerns. And also it provides a really nice high volume supply for power steering fluid. You obviously need more fluid in the system when you are running a ram, because you've obviously got the ram and all the lines to fill. Having this external reservoir makes sure that you have enough fluid in demand. It also adds more fluid for more cooling, more filtering. And then what's nice about this box is I get 2 ports out. I get my input port, I get my output down to the box, down to the pump, and then I get an auxiliary which will be going up to the hydro boost to help with the braking. So I've been asked by a few of you why I went with leaf springs instead of a coilover for this build, and simplicity is the main reason. Simplicity and performance. You see, these are off-road design custom leaf springs that they spec and they build out, and you can see I think it's a 9-pack instead of the traditional 3, maybe 4-pack that you would get with an OEM spring. That way you can have a spring that is going to work throughout its full range. It's going to be supple, it's going to have bottom out resistance, it's going to have a decent arch to give you the lift you need, it's going to be designed for the weight it's going to carry, and it's just going to work really, really well. These are built with a military style end wrap for the front of the leaf spring. They're bolted, they're designed to work as one integral unit. They come in a pair and you can design and spec them how you see fit. So these have been designed with a winch up front, with a 1-ton axle, with a Cummins in it, and with 38-inch tires. So a lot of thought and planning went into it, but it is well worth it for the simplicity that they offer and also the performance.
Yeah, I know, I said I wasn't going to do it, but just after looking at the frame rails and seeing how easy it would be to box these sections in, I did decide to cut some of this plate and unbox the rear gas tank area. My logic was that off of the trailer hitch, there's going to be leverage, and if I can do anything to stiffen up the frame in this rear area, it would pay dividends in the long term. So, cut some plate, put some windows in for some of the hardware, painted it, and welded it. I only skipped this center section, which I don't think is going to be experiencing that much stress due to its location in the frame. And yeah, the front's all being done. I've got a couple more cross members to throw in, but I'm happy with how this has come out. The frame looks great with this steelite. This is the stuff you guys need to be using. It just looks great. I also tied my hitch to my frame in another location. I want more and more overbuilt goodness on all this junk, and so adding these little square tube pieces in helps quite a bit.
So that's where I stand with the K30 Burb. You can see that as parts come in, I'm throwing them on as fast as I can. I did take the opportunity to do a lot of prep work before I had all the parts. And so now that the parts are showing up, it's nice to just be able to bolt them in place. And I'm ready to bolt them in place on your build. So if you want a bespoke custom diesel Suburban built by a YouTuber, you know what to do. Hit me up, email me, james@merricksgarage.com. I'm looking forward to this. It's gonna happen, and a couple of you guys are gonna end up with some killer builds. Make sure to give me a subscribe, comment down below, and keep on watching. Merricks Garage.